Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So this week we're going to be talking about Google's new game streaming service and how Microsoft's Azure cloud services is being dominated by Linux. So let's go ahead and start with the whole game streaming service, which is called Project Stream. Now this is something that Google has been working on for a while. And if you actually go to the website, they actually have the very first sample of this service running, at least from I guess almost production level. And that is they have a very popular game, a new release called Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And the demo that they have is actually running at 1080p at 60 frames per second, being streamed over the internet. And so this is going to be a huge thing for Google. And you know, if you've been in the gaming space for a while, game streaming has been nothing new. I think many companies like OnLive have tried this years and years ago. Genkai, there's been so many attempts at doing the streaming service, and it's still going on right now, okay? But it hasn't got to that level yet where it's almost seamless. You know, NVIDIA has their G Stream service. A lot of game companies have their own streaming service as well. And so the reason why Google's Project Stream is so important is because of who it is. First and foremost, it's Google. You know, they know about streaming. Just think about YouTube and all the various services that they have, and they have the money and the technology to do it extremely well. And the second thing, which I think is more important than that, is just the habits of people in our current modern age. Because even though these streaming technologies and attempts at it have been around for many, many years, the actual the technology wasn't there yet. But I think more importantly is the actual habits of people. Because back then, people were still buying physical software. You know, they were still buying physical games. Most of the devices were not online. Most people did not have smartphones yet. And so that really changes the habits of how people use their services, how they play games, and all of those things. But so now, because people are used to saving everything on the cloud, they're used to streaming things, you know, they don't really buy physical products anymore, specifically for gaming and also other media like music and so forth. And so now this is the correct timing for Google to present this. And I really feel this is a huge opportunity for Google. Because if this works well, meaning it's almost seamless, there's very little no latency, people could get an extremely awesome gaming experience because it's not going to be using their hardware to run it. And they're going to be basically not tied down to a specific platform or gaming system. But the only platform they'll be tied to is the Google platform. So I think they're going to be using their Chrome browser or something like that to actually run all their game streaming services. So in this case, whether you are using Windows, Mac, or you're using Linux, you're using iOS, you're using Android, it does not matter. As long as you have a browser interface of some sort and you connect to their Project Stream service, you'll be able to game anywhere and at very, very high levels. And so I think this is a very exciting thing. And because once again it is Google, I think they have a better shot than most companies to actually do it. But obviously Google isn't the only player in town. We have Amazon there, we have Microsoft, we have Apple. Facebook could get into the game streaming service as well. And so there's going to be a lot more competition in this space. And so if Google get in early and have a lot of people adopt this service, then they will take the leadership role, in my opinion. And I think they have a very good shot. And so the second piece of news is Microsoft Azure cloud services being dominated by Linux. Now, if anybody has kept up with the whole saga of Microsoft and Linux, with Steve Ballmer saying Linux is a cancer many years ago, and he's actually really softened up on that stance. He really doesn't say that anymore. He's more like open source is okay, that's kind of where his stance is. But whenever this new CEO, Nadella, took over, he made a huge change in Microsoft, okay, where if you actually look at what Microsoft does, they do a lot of stuff in open source. They are part of the Linux Foundation. They added the WSL layer to Windows 10. They have their Microsoft Azure cloud services with Linux services, which is what we're talking about here. But they also have Microsoft IoT services with basically a Linux distro, with the Linux kernel. And so Microsoft is doing a lot of things. And even if you go to GitHub, they're probably the largest contributors to GitHub. They have the most developers and so forth on there. And so if you kind of get past the fact that Microsoft historically has been a proprietary software company, their business practices and so forth, and you actually look at what they're doing, they're probably doing more in open source than many companies. Okay, so that is the crazy thing. And so with all of that being said, if you actually look at Microsoft's Azure cloud services, and with a recent interview, I think with the chief technology officer, that Linux services, the Linux operating system running in a VM type of environment in the Microsoft Azure Cloud Services accounts for more than 40% of what Microsoft Azure offers as a service. And that is absolutely huge. And this is something that Microsoft, and I have mentioned this many times before, Microsoft is a very smart company. Okay, you might not like them, you might hate them, but you cannot deny their business practices in the case that they're very successful in what they do. And they saw that this was coming many years ago. Obviously, they did try to destroy Linux early on, but when they saw that Linux not only was not going anywhere, but more importantly, it made companies and businesses money, then Microsoft made a shift many years ago, specifically with Nadella, and they started adopting more open source related projects, specifically with Linux, because obviously there is a financial gain in there, and Microsoft is now a big player in open source. And I really feel, believe it or not, Microsoft is probably going to push open source even further because they actually have a business reason to do it, and they also want to dominate this area to where their competitors either don't catch up or they don't provide as much value as Microsoft does when it comes to open source related services, which is absolutely insane to say. And so that is it for the news this week. If you had any thoughts about what I talked about today, whether it's Google's Project Stream game service or Microsoft Azure Cloud Service now becoming basically Microsoft Linux Cloud Services, be sure to leave that in the comments area below. And as always, if you did get value out of these videos, share, like, and subscribe. Hey geeks, if you are a creative geek like me and you wanted to learn how to create content on YouTube and other places on the internet, then check out my Gold Content Creators group, where you'll get access to 30 videos plus additional content for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part of it is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators group. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com, and I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.